Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to Fish Hunt Northwest, Wayne England, Kelly Barnum, and of course, we'll be joined later in the kitchen by Chef Kelly Lance O'Neill and the lovely Sherry with another fantastic recipe of the week. I'm not even going to try to rattle out the title right now because it's a lengthy one. But I will. Maybe I'll get to that later. David over in IT Corner getting this done, and by the way, kudos to him.
Yeah.
We experienced some weird wind power surge. Literally, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, right before we're going to get ready to go on, and lost everything. Had to reset all cameras, had to wait for the internet to come back up. That's why we're a couple minutes late. Thank you, David. Stellar performance once again. The guy gets it done.
He does.
Well, you know, he gets paid a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money, and that's what I told him. I mean, just remember when you cash that giant check,
yes.
that it's worth every penny.
Well, he rolls out of here in his Rolls Royce, and you know, he's got his driver now. So anyway, Fish Hunt Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Commons Real Estate, located in Puyallup, Washington, and as we do each and every week, we thank them for that, helping us to bring this to you each and every week live as we do. If you are tuning in this evening, get on the old chat ways and let us know where you are tuning in from, whether you're watching on Facebook, right here on our Facebook channel, our page, and or of course our YouTube channel. If you have not yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and spread it out there, man. It's starting to grow pretty good each and every week for us, and we appreciate that. So grab our content, push it out there, like our videos, take time and observe them because it's good stuff we're putting out time and time again. It keeps us extremely busy, but we do appreciate all the support, and the numbers are going up, and we really appreciate that. So whether you're tuning in each and every week on Facebook or YouTube, keep it going, get your friends to subscribe, and you'll never miss an episode. With that, Barnum, lots of stuff going on around the Pacific Northwest and beyond, and throughout Puget Sound.
I mean, in the words of some famous rapper, I don't know who, but it's about to go down.
Oh, is that what's happening?
June is here.
Oh my gosh.
And it is about to go down. I mean, this is what we live for in the Pacific Northwest.
How about the weather yesterday?
Oh, man.
I don't know. Oh, I know what you were doing. You got to go out on the ocean yesterday.
Exactly what I was doing. And how many, let's talk about that weather. How many times can you be in the ocean, you know, in the Pacific Northwest, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's flatter than your lake out here? Yeah. I mean, unbelievable day yesterday.
Beautiful.
Oh, man.
Depending where you were in the Southwest Washington region, you may have touched close to 100 degrees. Right. 60-some% humidity, which made it a little bit difficult to get through the late afternoon. But it was a bit toasty yesterday. That's why you're probably dealing with some wind today. You know, on the heels of that type of high heat, we usually get that wind push coming in offshore and gets things kind of cooling down, like a 20-degree drop today.
It showed up, actually, I kind of expected that to happen yesterday, early afternoon, and that's when I talked to you about our ocean trip. I was kind of in panic mode, let's get our fish and get out of there, because I thought we were going to see that wind, but they saw it today.
Yeah, they did.
So
you hit it just right.
Yes.
And you had a great morning to early afternoon. Got some fish. We'll get into that a little bit later. You're going to show us, you're going to have a great topic in the bait lab there where you're going to kind of dissect a few of them bottom creatures that you pulled out from the depths. How deep of water were you fishing yesterday? 400?
Around the 100-foot mark.
Oh, you were not out in deep water.
We stayed close.
Yeah, that's what I like.
I mean, we talked to a couple guys at the dock that were going 30, 40 miles out to target deep water lanes, which I'm sure is awesome and exciting. But we filled the boat full of bottom fish at about 100 feet of water, so 3-4 miles offshore.
How much fuel did you save?
I spent 10 gallons of gas yesterday.
10 gallons of gas.
Box. And I know those guys that are going out 40 miles spend a lot more than that.
That's $35 to $40 in fuel. Yeah. To go out and get your cooler full of fish in the 100-foot water. Yeah. We're going to delve into that a little deeper even later in the show. We're going to talk with Ian Winder of All Rivers and Saltwater Charters with Mark Coleman's gang. You know, Ian's been out there doing it for a long time, and he is a wealth of knowledge. They go out day in and day out.
Day in and day out.
You know, they approach it with a great setup. They have the boats ready to go, and they're so in tune with what's going on, the ocean conditions, and just very successful in getting out and getting people on fish.
The thing with Ian and all of Mark's captains are his passion for the fisheries. Yeah. I mean, the guy just loves to fish. Yeah. And I know Jared, who's anher one of Mark's captains, loves to fish. On their days off, they go fishing.
That's what they do. We have steelhead fished together previously. But what's interesting in talking with him, too, is, we were talking about, and we'll get into it with him, obviously, later, but given the opportunity to go bottom fish, ling cod, salmon, combo trips, tuna, he's like, man, I just like going out after lings and bottom fish.
Yeah.
Salmon's okay, but man, I just really like going after lings and bottom fish. I mean, that's his thing, right? So why wouldn't we get him on later in the show to talk about that? Because he's so dialed in and squared away on there. Before we get there, though, we're going to actually pick the brain of a friend of ours, Chris Donnelly. He works for WDFW, Region 1 fish program manager over there on the east side. Phenomenal wealth of knowledge. I've known him for a number of years. I could sit and talk to that guy for hours.
Right.
He brings, again, talk about passion. The passion for his area over there in Region 1 and the fisheries he observes and oversees and you know, is in charge of managing. We're going to go deep in his head on that Upper Columbia River Roosevelt Lake, or Lake Roosevelt sturgeon, retention sturgeon opportunity that they announced, you know, opens up June 15th. And they're encouraging folks to come on over and fish. It's funny because I put that post out on our Facebook page. A lot of folks saying, yeah, it's a good time, but you know, good luck catching one within the slot limit for a keeper size. Seems a little bit tough. I kind of threw that at him. He chuckled. He's like, you know, there's actually plenty of them there.
Yeah.
They know the age class of those fish. He's going to go in deep on that specific information that talks about the age class of the fish, the size of the fish, how long they've been doing this hatchery program, why there's so many of them there. Really good information from him. Later in the show, as we get close to closing out, we'll touch base with Dale Stevens, longtime friend of ours, the tuna dog himself. He has a seminar coming up at Sportco this up and coming weekend, Saturday, all about tuna, and we'll pick his brain on a few things that are going on. So, but before we get into that too much, hey, did you know we have another shrimp opener coming up? Last couple days, June 21st and 22nd, Hood Canal. You have 2 opportunities to go out and get some more spot prawn or shrimp. The 21st, 22nd, Saturday, Sunday, pots in at noon, must be out by 4. You got a 4-hour window on each day. And some things to think about is WDFW would advocate on their website and information they throw out there. Things to think about. Don't wait till noon to launch the boat.
Right.
You need to be out there an hour or two ahead of time. There will definitely be a line launching out there in that area to
is there a reason that they do noon to 4?
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm just curious.
No idea. The tide is your low tide, I believe, if I looked, and I looked a couple weeks ago, and there's information obviously available. Somewhere in the middle of that is probably your low tide. I think about 2 o'clock or so. So you're going to be a little slack at before you're pulling your pots in on that last hour.
So is that some reasoning behind it, you think?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about the shrimp fishery.
Yeah, well, you know, typically when you go to do something, you like to get an early start and get out there and get it done, right? So this is a noon to 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Both days, Saturday and Sunday,
with 21st, the afternoon winds and everything, if that would play havoc.
Not sure. For those that have done shrimping in the past over there at Hood Canal, which I did last year before.
Right.
It can be pretty successful. Good opportunity there, and you will wait in line to launch your boat, but you get out there early enough, wait, once the bell, you know, once the clock hits noon, drop the pots, and you know, hopefully you do well. What's the reason? Why are we waiting until noon to drop pots? I didn't look that deep into it, right? So see what you come up with. Just letting folks know. Barnum, how about those shad counts?
Oh, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I was going through them here today, and first thing I want to ask is, who's counting these things? I mean, I know they have people that sit in these little...
Would you say like 300,000 a day or something?
I mean, 349,000, 330,000. I mean, just incredible numbers. That shad count, they're predicting to break over 6 million this year.
Which was the previous record, I think?
I think the previous record was 6.1.
Okay.
And so they're looking for that to break and be a new record. Who knows how many? I mean, with the counts we're seeing right now, I mean, we're still at 267,000 shad today.
That's unbelievable.
And so it's like unbelievable numbers. I think the highest number I saw, we had a day where 412,000, almost a half a million
in a single day,
in one day.
24-hour window.
Right.
You and I had this discussion. I'm sure many others are having it as well. It's interesting because the shad is an anadromous fish.
Right.
So they are reared and spawned out, you know, they hatch out in the fresh water, albeit they're there for a short amount of time, and then boom, they're gone.
Right.
Head on out to the ocean. They're out there for 4 or 5 years, and then return as an adult for spawning. I did a little reading because I kind of know about the shad, but it wasn't real in depth on the shad. And I was surprised at the multiple publications on things, you know, average 3 to 5 pounds, which we're aware of, but those things can upwards of 10 to 12 pounds.
Right.
I don't know if there's a lot of those getting caught in the Columbia, because if there were, we would see pictures all over social media.
Right.
And I tend not to see those photos. I see a lot of 3 to 5 pounders in the old grip and grin on the shad photos, right? Fun fishery, great for kids, great for families to go out and get after them. Folks do eat them, pickle them, can them, whatever they do. I've personally never eaten shad.
Right, me neither.
Great sturgeon bait, as you know, right?
Great crab bait.
Yep.
I know a lot of people use them for crab bait.
Well, right now the sturgeon in the Columbia are just gorging themselves on shad. Right. So, interesting thing about it is they're kind of I don't know if it's the right term to say broadcast spawner, but they kind of throw eggs out that are neutral buoyant. In some of the info I read, that kind of caught me by surprise. And the other thing I realized is that the female shad is kind of the tramp of the Columbia River. Okay. Well, because she will breed with 1 to 5 males.
So much different than a salmon.
Yeah, they really don't give a crap about, monogamy. They're just all about getting their eggs fertilized. And so, but they do that because depending on the size of shad, they can carry anywhere from 115 to 615,000 eggs, depending on the size. And when they spawn, they don't necessarily just dump all their eggs in a single spawning bed. Oh, okay. They're kind of moving along and broadcasting them, and the males are following suit in fertilizing. So it's kind of a multiple day process. Okay. So they're really kind of working it, working the Columbia. Yeah. So they're kind of a tramp.
This isn't just a wham bam thinking, man. This is let's make it last.
They kind of take their time. Them male shad got to schmooze them a little bit and kind of
So, are they like a plankton feeder in the ocean, or are they a bait fish feeder? I mean, what's going on in the ocean that they're being so successful, but yet our salmon, steelhead species are struggling so bad out there?
That's what I don't understand. But yeah, in the rivers, they eat plankton and things, small organisms. And let's see, I would have to look back through here again and find it. But they do have a difference in feeding habits, which they're definitely not eating fish. I can tell you that. So that could be one thing. That is the big question: is like, how are we seeing 6 million of these little critters plus 6 over? We'll see if we hit 7 million this year. Right. But how do you get that amount of survivability? Right. Is it the sheer numbers going out? Right. I mean, they're dinky when they're leaving the fresh water.
Is it just that sea lions don't eat shad?
Could be.
Is it cormorants don't eat shad fry?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what we're seeing?
Maybe the sea lions are like, oh no, I don't do shad.
Shad are
far too bony. Far too bony.
Well, I mean, and that could be a case. I mean, we know that like with the orcas, where they tend to only feed on Chinook, as they say. So I mean, you could have an issue.
Here's the answer to your question. Shad are plankton feeders in the freshwater, and as adults will filter food like mysid shrimp through their gill rakers. That's what I remember reading. So they're predominantly, well, you would think their meat would be pink then. Right.
It must be more plankton than shrimp.
Yeah, I guess so.
The only thing. I don't know.
Maybe somebody knows
more
than
info
us.
on shad.
We just thought we'd look into it because it's a popular fishery.
It's becoming very popular.
The thing you and I are getting hung up on is, how is the survivability so high? Yes. Now, if they're primarily shrimp eaters in the ocean, I could see that. Yeah. There's a lot of mysid shrimp out in the ocean for sure. Billions upon billions of pounds. So, if we could maybe get our salmon to convert to mysid shrimp, albeit they'd have to eat a ton. But
I think we could work on that.
Yeah. So anyway, the numbers are impressive. I'll be curious to see how long this continues to go on and what the numbers truly end up being. Did you check the recent and almost outdated spring Chinook numbers?
No, I did not.
Do you remember several weeks ago when we were talking about, albeit additional closures continuing to happen, and it happened once again? As far as they're like, oh, now we got to close this final leg of the tour, so to speak. And we had kind of thrown some numbers around just to see what would stick, and we were kind of in that 50 to 55 percentile. We figured the return of our spring Chinook run this season would maybe peak at 50 to 55% of the preseason forecast, and lo and behold, it's kind of just held right there over Bonneville at 54.4. Wow. Which is 54,657 last time I looked, which was yesterday or day before.
Right. And they're down to single digits, if no digits?
I've seen days with zeros. Wow. Over Bonneville. Right? So I'm saying it's probably pretty much done. Right. And we're at 54%. Man. Concerning. Very concerning.
I hope that isn't a precursor to our fall numbers. You know, I really hope.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of it.
Yeah.
I am very curious to see what next year's return will be.
Right.
I would have to back up. You and I'd have to go dig and see what it was 4 years ago.
Right.
And see if we have even a remote chance of maybe getting back up to 150, 200,000. I don't know. If somebody pulls that up, looks at that number from 4 years ago, see what that return was. I don't remember having discussions where we were not making egg take.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be an issue. This is concerning, but it's off of 2015.
Right.
So that thereby is probably one of the main reasons for that, right? It's off of 2015. So I guess glimmer of hope, we're just waiting in anticipation to see what those coho numbers are going to be this year.
Yeah.
And all indications.
I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I mean, I've really sold that to friends.
Yes.
Everybody's kind of been on the downside of the fisheries, really complaining, and we got coho this year, guys.
Summer on steelhead is starting off amazingly slow.
Right.
I have not seen a ton of good reports coming out of anywhere for the most part. And on top of that, we already have extreme low water conditions, and that is going to be warmer than normal water as these fish return, which is problematic in survivability. The warmer the water gets, the higher the bacteria counts go, the more things that grow on the outside of fish when you get that warm water. So their slime that they get on their bodies is for a reason. It helps in preventing them getting certain types of bacteria and stuff growing on their skin. I've seen it before, like summer steelhead, when they're in tributary waters and it's low, gin clear, absorbing lots of heat, because the clearer that water is, and then those brown rocks and things on the bottom of the river absorb that heat during the day, and we get a long, dry, hot summer.
Right.
That water temperature goes up. When that water temperature goes up, now those fish are susceptible to more disease and things, and survivability and actual ability to spawn when they're ready for spawn the following through the winter into spring is not very achievable.
Right.
So concerning, to say the least, on multiple fronts. So let's try to find a glimmer of hope. Hey, I hear the beehive world is doing well. We got a lot of bees out there.
Well, we've talked the last couple weeks. In fact, we've even nicknamed it now Predator Nation. I mean, we've talked the last couple weeks about how predators have been moving into our suburban, and I mean, my location is not suburban at all, but I mean, just moving into people's backyards.
Sure.
And so that topic really hit home for us this week. A neighbor, kind of in the same vicinity as me, has some beehives, has been having some issues with a bear getting into his beehives. Had an issue, I remember what day it was, Tuesday, I believe. Bear came in, bear was acting a little bit aggressive towards him. He made the decision to put the bear down. Of course, ended up called Fish and Wildlife, did the right thing. They came out. They're still kind of looking at it, but it looks like it's going to be, okay for what he did. I mean, it was definitely a problem. I mean, these beehives that he has at his house, they're 20 yards from the back door. I mean, this isn't, off in the back field. I mean, these things are right there.
And this bear has been there before.
Right. Yeah.
Repeat offender.
And a fairly large bear. I mean, I just looking at him on the ground when I got up there to put the beehive back together. 280?
Really?
300 pounds? Yeah, a fairly large bear. And he said he actually seen the bear and it was just one swat. Knocked the whole hive over. Yeah. So, I mean, unbelievable. But it was just interesting with everything that we've had going on and all that we've talked about. Right. That it's just like this week.
So is it possible to put like an electric wired fence around your beehives? Yeah, that's what we're going to work on. Right?
And I mean, and this isn't something that's been a reoccurring problem year over year there. Sure. I mean, he's had bees forever. Yeah. And all the hives that I started come from his bees and swarms that we had caught. So, I mean, he's had bees forever and never had an issue. Right. This year has been different. Yeah. So, and it was quite interesting that was the hottest day we had in that area, mid-90s. And that bear came strolling in at like 2 o'clock.
Middle of the day.
Yeah,
high heat.
Yeah, I'm sure that beehive smelled like a candy factory.
That's a good point. Probably emitting a lot of scent.
It was like the old cartoons where he was just nose in the air being drugged.
So he shot it, game warden came out. Yeah. You guys had to kind of talk your way through.
To talk a little bit about that, if you guys, if you know that you're in bear area, you're having bear trouble, garbage cans, beehives, anything like that, do your best to secure it. And in the advice of Fish and Wildlife, if you're having conflict, call. let them know. Let there be a paper trail that you're having this conflict, so that if this comes up to a point where you decide you have to take matters into your own hands, and at least there's a phone record of what was going on.
Yeah,
but,
good point.
Yeah, I mean,
well, they might even come out and try to trap it and relocate it.
Yeah,
prior to obviously euthanizing it by any means. But no, it's just one of those things. I mean, we're just seeing more and more encounters, and it was an interesting conversation you had with the game warden to say that, well, urban sprawl is like, this place has been established for a long time.
Right, yeah, the game warden. They
didn't just build a house and start, rearing bees, and all of a sudden the bear showed up.
Right, the officer talked to me about that. We're seeing a lot of conflict right now statewide. It's becoming a huge issue. I mean, he made the comment that the cougar sightings in the Aberdeen area have been through the roof.
Yeah.
And, he started talking about urban sprawl, and then of course, I brought up the Leavenworth incident, and he goes, well, yeah, you're dealing with urban sprawl. And I'm like, come on, that's downtown.
It's kind of downtown.
Right? Downtown
watch FHN, you'll find that out as we point that out.
But it was a very interesting topic, because we've been so up to date on it, probably more than the average person. And so he was just kind of took him back when I'm throwing all these numbers at him. But it was kind of very interesting.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll see. Hopefully no more bear encounters there.
Right.
Help them get the electric fence up to, keep that out of there. But with that, hey, we have something going on that we've been working on here for a few weeks. Got a phone call from a gentleman down in Ilwaco for their tuna club. And we have the opportunity that we're taking advantage of. Of course, it's a lot of extra work for us, but we're willing to do this. We are taking our show, Fish Hunt Northwest, on the road and going to do our first live show. I mean, we do a live show each and every week, obviously, right? But this will be at a additional venue Saturday, June 22nd. We're going to be down at the Ilwaco Tuna Club, and we are going to put on about an hour and a half show live there in front of an audience. We're going to stream it live once again, as we do each and every week. We will do our show next Thursday. We will follow that with a live show in Ilwaco on Saturday, 4:30 in the afternoon. Right. They have their annual kickoff party, which, for those paying attention, June 22nd is officially opening day of all 4 ocean areas for salmon. Yep. So folks will go out and fish salmon in the morning. Tuna Club puts on this great event. If you happen to be down there out towards the coast or Ilwaco area and want to swing on by, anybody and everybody's welcome. They do a number of seminars throughout the day. They will have dinner later in the afternoon, early evening. They do a huge raffle as a fundraiser. They got a lot of things going on down there. We're going to have multiple interviews with some very interesting folks. Chef Kelly and Sherry will be down there doing a cooking segment. We're going to have a how-to segment with Dell Stevens, talking about tuna and things like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of folks will be there, 200 to 300 folks. And should be a really good time for everybody involved. And we're just excited to take our show on the road. Yeah. We're going to be out of the studio, but you may see something that kind of resembles our studio, albeit it'll be on location. And this is the first of many that we intend on doing as we take this show out on the road and attend different events. Speaking of which, we had a handful of folks get a hold of us this last couple weeks. Got some archery 3D shoots coming up that we've posted up. We have community events coming up that we've posted up on our Facebook page. We like to share that information. We like to get that out to the community. So if you have club events or certain events, especially if it involves kids, let us know. Get a hold of us on our Facebook page. Feed us that information. We'd love to help and support and get that information out for people to attend. And pay attention to what we got going on. We will be announcing when we go on the road, events that we will be attending. We're working on some stuff later in the summer, bigger events, more people, and just a really good time. Bring in certain guests for speakers, and just, it should be kind of a fun party atmosphere when we put our show on the road live.
We've talked about this a lot, and we get great interaction online through this process here in the studio, but to have the opportunity to be in front of a live studio audience, get the interaction there, it's going to be exciting, amazing. I mean, it's going to be a very technical thing to pull off. I know our crew can make it happen.
So there's always the bugs to work out, right? And unfortunately, Ilwaco, we're coming for you, and we're going to work the bugs out the best we can as soon as we get down there. We're going to set up the day before, and hopefully it all goes flawless, and we do a good show as we try to do each and every week. So we got that coming. A couple things popping up here. Sean and Bowden says 245,000 springers in 2014, but that was 5 years ago, right? So that was a big number. Somebody pull up, because I don't have time right now, what it was in 2015. That's our 4-year return on our 2019 fish. Lots of information on shad over here, Barnum. Guys are chiming in. Corey, yep, they're plankton feeders, and that's why they get so plentiful in the ocean. Definitely. So plenty of plankton out there for them to eat. And of course, as I had mentioned, they are also going after the mysid shrimp when they can find them. So and
it also says here that they're good smoked. So there you go.
That's the two, and I talked to Chef Kelly about it too. It's like, you ever done shad? He's like, no, I've never done shad. But most people will smoke them, and then when you can them, because it helps dissolve the bones, and apparently it's supposed to be pretty good. Extremely oily. Some refer to them as a Washington State, tarpon. Right. They're actually a member of the herring family. So they're an interesting little fish.
If they got up to 150 pounds like a tarpon, I might be a little more interested.
Well, they got a mouth like a tarpon, don't they? Yeah. So it might be something to pursue, but I don't know. Somebody give us a good recipe, and Chef is really ready to take that on. So pay attention. We're going to put out information on our Facebook page about the Oahu event coming up here in about a week and a half. Would love to see some familiar faces down there. If you happen to have a free Saturday, want to come hang out, learn some stuff about salmon and tuna fishing, and sit in on the segment of the show and watch some really good live interviews with our guests. And we'll announce next week who those are going to be as we firm those up. All right, with that, I've been kicking this stuff around long enough. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, Chris Donnelly, WDFW Region 1 Fish Program Manager. We're going to delve into this Upper Columbia River, Lake Roosevelt, specifically keeper sturgeon program that's been in the works for a number of years. This is the 3rd or 4th year they've opened it. Folks would complain a little, say retention numbers are down because of slot limit. We're going to talk to Chris, try to figure out where and how and why you should be going after these critters. All that with Chris Donnelly when we come back right here on FHM.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
Oh, hey, we're back. I'm sitting here staring at stuff and sending messages and looking over notes and whatnot. So welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. So glad you could join us. We have plenty of folks tuning in tonight. Lots of things to cover here, Barnum.
Yep.
And I'm going to pull out one earpiece because this drives me crazy. But got to wear the earbuds if we want to have the conversation.
Right.
Chris Donnelly is on the phone as he's on the road. Fish Program Manager for Region 1, WDFW. How you doing, Chris? Got him?
Can you hear us, Chris? I think we lost him.
Yeah, we lose him? Okay, we're going to keep talking.
Right. Cell phones anyway.
Yeah, yep. Hey, let's talk about that predation, the sea lion post that you had thrown up on your way in tonight, Barnum. That thing's grabbing a lot of attention already.
Yeah, a ton.
Simply, it's been out. That article came out a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
It's talking about WDFW and several other entities jumping on board to support and file for licenses to acquire the removal of sea lions on the Columbia, right?
On the Columbia River, yeah. So they've already been doing that, as we know, at Willamette Falls.
Right.
And it's been very successful. I mean, we've seen jumps in the fish counts.
We don't have to rehash those summer steelhead numbers again, but that was impressive.
Right. And so now to have the opportunity to maybe that happens in the Columbia, where it's desperately needed.
The other language in there was that hasn't been addressed before or pursued, maybe has been pursued, but now they're getting serious about it, is the stellar sea lion population. The other interesting thing about that was it involves not just Washington and tribes, but it mentions ODF&W, Idaho Fish and Game, and a number of tribes on both sides of the river, all up in Idaho, Oregon, Washington, a host of agencies getting involved, all coming to the table with the same goal, and that is to start removal of those sea lions. And again, you made it a point to say, proofs in the pudding, in that what has happened or transpired on the Willamette with the recent removal of those California sea lions, as it's relative to the steelhead, the numbers went up exponentially.
Right.
2 years ago, 800-ish, 834, something like that. This last season, 3,200 plus some change was the outcome on those wild fish, steelhead on the Willamette. So are we getting him yet? Are we getting close?
Okay.
Sounds like it. I've been waiting to have this conversation.
Right.
I told him, make sure you're in a good cell area because we got to have good cell coverage to get this done. David, if it's not going to work, we can jump out for a quick break, and we'll join Barnum in the bait lab. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
David's trying.
We got him.
You got him? Chris, are you there? I'm not hearing anything, David. Oh, I hear you.
Chris, are you there?
I can hear you.
Oh, there it is. The magic.
We were this close to pulling the plug. So wherever you're sitting, whatever you're doing, just stay right there. Cell phone connectivity could be an issue. So how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Hey, you and I had a great discussion earlier in the week. I want to pick your brain and kind of educate folks on the opportunity that is coming to them. June 15th is the opener for keeper sturgeon retention on the Upper Columbia, albeit Lake Roosevelt, 55-mile long reservoir with plenty of sturgeon in there. Let's talk a little bit about the evolution of that fishery, how it came about to be, and is it truly a good opportunity for folks to find and be able to get a hold of some of those retention size critters that are in Roosevelt?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just start with the rules because that always seems to be the question we get. And it's open from Grand Coulee Dam to the China Bend boat ramp. So it's quite an extensive area to fish for sturgeon. And China Bend is up above the city of Kettle Falls and the Kettle Falls Bridge. So it's a big area to fish. The slot limit is 53 to 63 inches. And I guess that leads me to the question of, what's the odds of catching a keeper? And it's about 10% of the population of fish up there is a keeper. For those folks that have been kind of following the fishery, this will be the third year we've had it open.
Right.
The first year we had a great big broad slot limit. I think it was 38 to 63 or 38 to 62. I can't remember the exact number. And basically, we hadn't had a fishery up there in 20 years. We really wanted to understand who would come and use it and how fast they could catch fish. And so we had a big broad slot limit. Saw a whole lot of people come. We saw license plates from Utah and Idaho and Montana. And, I think sturgeon bring people out of the woodwork, especially when it's good opportunity. And we caught, a little over 3,000 fish in that first fishery. And yeah, it was great. But what we found out is that's way too many people, and we caught fish way too fast. And so we tightened the slot limit down to what it is now, which is that 10-inch slot, 53 to 63. And we're a little happier with the rate of harvest. It's about 500 fish a year. That's a little more sustainable.
Sure.
And our goal is to try to keep that fishery going, not just have sort of a gold rush and then have to close it off and never go back. And so that's why folks will see that slot limit change. And then as far as where it came from, back in 2000, 2001, we started to realize that we had almost no recruitment of wild sturgeon into Lake Roosevelt. That population of sturgeon was captured above Grand Coulee Dam when they constructed that back in the 30s, and sort of hung out up there as a remnant population. And actually, they did pretty well up until the construction of the third powerhouse at Grand Coulee, which changed hydro operations up there and basically interrupted recruitment of any sturgeon into that population. So when we started investigations in the early 2000s, along with the Spokane and the Colville tribe up there, we found out we had a standing crop of about 3,000 remnant sturgeon, all of which were for the most part mature. The good news was we could find spawning sturgeon. The bad news is that those sturgeon would spawn, the eggs would incubate for 7 to 10 days, the larvae would pop out of the egg and disappear.
Wow.
Oh.
And so at that point, we started looking at ways that, how do we make juvenile sturgeon? Right. And so we've got a number of hypotheses and a whole lot of research that goes on up there to try to solve those reproduction issues. But the stopgap is let's use some hatchery produced fish and put them out there and, make sure that we're recruiting fish into adulthood to replace those that are falling out of the population as they age out. And so we started out originally by spawning adult sturgeon, no different than we spawn salmon or trout in a hatchery. And putting those out there. And we didn't know a whole lot about how to do it. We kind of had some ideas about how to spawn them. We're real successful at creating juveniles. We didn't know how many to put out there, didn't know what any of that meant. So we started out with a partnership with Canada. We were putting 5,000 hatchery sturgeon in Washington portion of the river. Canada was doing 5,000, thinking that survival rates for those juvenile sturgeon would be low. And that, we'd be lucky to get a few hundred fish to make it to adulthood. And what we found out is juvenile sturgeon are a lot like a mini pincushion and doesn't seem like much wants to eat them.
Oh,
right.
Had super high survival rates. And so here we were sort of faced with an overrepresentation genetically of these populations of fish that we put out there. And remember, we talk about 3,000 spawning adults. They don't all spawn in 1 year. Maybe just a few hundred of those will. We have all these hatchery fish out there with the similar genetics, right? They're all cousins or siblings because of the hatchery technique we use. We don't want to overrepresent those in the population as they mature. And so the challenge was now we got all these sturgeon that survived. Survival was much higher than we anticipated, and genetically we're going to swamp the population with siblings and cousins if we don't figure this out.
Right.
And that's what really, for lack of a better term, spawned this fishery. And so really it's a conservation fishery from the perspective that we're asking anglers to get out there and help us reduce the overall number of these hatchery fish that are in the population, to get it down to where we have a few enough of them that they're spawning in the wild like we want them to, but not over-representing the population.
Right. So you were saying early in that about 10% of the population is going to be keeper-sized. So are you seeing a majority of, let's say, undersized fish or a majority of oversized fish?
There'll be both.
Okay.
Above 63 inches and below 53, there'll be hatchery fish in there.
Okay.
Pretty much every fish you're going to encounter that's not a fish over 7 feet long came from the hatchery.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And the hatchery I'm referencing is Sherman Creek Hatchery, which is right there on Lake Roosevelt. That's where those are reared and released from.
How many years ago did you initiate the hatchery program? How old are these fish?
Well, you're testing my memory a little bit, but I want to say 2000 or 2001 is when we first put the first sturgeon in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So a little bit more deep. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to ask, do you guys have a rough guesstimate, or do you have an assumption of how many sturgeon reside within that Lake Roosevelt system?
Well, what we knew when we started into this fishery is we had roughly 23 to 25,000 fish in that hatchery realm that we wanted to remove.
Okay.
We've probably whittled down anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 of those with non-tribal anglers. The tribes have very likely harvested a number close to that as well, if not a little bit higher. So, you can do some simple math, subtract the 8 from the 23,000. Let's say we have 15,000 out there that are from probably 35 to 65 inches in length. And then the keeper ones are that 10% proportion of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What kind of advice can you give folks that are tuning in and want to learn more about this fishery as far as their ability to go target? What should they look for in that particular body of water? Areas, outcroppings, depressions, depths of water. I mean, up there fishing kokanee and you're hovering over water that's 600 feet deep and you're kind of like, holy smokes, this is a deep reservoir. We're getting kokanee in the 300-foot water, but we're finding them 100 and 150 feet down at times. So sturgeon fishery is a little bit different. What type of areas should these folks rely on their electronics to seek out and go find these sturgeon?
Sure. So let's split the sort of the sections of river that you wanted to fish. So I don't think you want to fish from Kettle Falls Bridge downstream more than maybe 25 miles.
Okay.
And, you can even separate it out a little bit more, which is as the reservoir refills, which is getting close to full now. When you see where it turns into a great big lake and spreads out, that's probably not where you want to fish.
Sure.
You want to look for something that's more narrow, resembles the river, and then think about the behavior of the sturgeon. In low light situations, they come up shallower and they forage on mud flats, and they'll be eating crayfish and clams and whatever they can find. And then when the light comes up, they dive down into some deeper water. And so case in point is just directly below Kettle Falls Bridge. You might find those fish as shallow as 60 feet first thing in the morning, and you might find them as deep as 150 feet by noon.
Wow.
And you just kind of have to move around on those fish. And some folks, their strategy is they sit in the deep water and they wait for them to show up. Other folks follow them along. I tend to sort of try to follow them out as the light comes up. And some days, you find them in 60 feet of water, they stay there.
Yeah.
Some days you find them in 150 feet and they stay there. And we've heard about fish caught as deep as 200 feet. Which would be basically the center of the old river channel. I would say you probably don't need to look a whole lot deeper than that. And then that's kind of just the stretch of river from Kettle Falls down. And if you think about the stretch of river from Kettle Falls up, once you get above Marcus Island, it turns into a free-flowing river or looks close to one. And then slightly above that, it does turn completely free-flowing. And that's more like fishing the main stem Columbia down, where folks have done a lot of sturgeon fishing in the estuary, where look for the holes. There are a number of deeper spots. The river might be uniformly 60, 70 feet, and then there's depressions that dig out to 120, and those get pretty obvious. There's very likely going to be boats on them. You won't be alone, so the boats will kind of tell you where to look as well.
Yeah. And
then there's some unique opportunities just above Kettle Falls is what's called Marcus Flats, and the whole thing's 35 to 50 feet of water. It's got some odd little depressions in it that hold forage, and there are times when I've seen hundreds and hundreds of sturgeon on those flats, and it's always a good place to go look.
Right. So what are they mainly, I know you talked about, do you have a lot of clam beds up in that area as far as up in those flats? Is that a major food source for these fish, or are they more eating, say dying minnows or?
They're very opportunistic, and I think the two things I've seen in their diets most, and obviously I'm not the sturgeon diet guy, but just what I've seen when I've filleted fish is We see crayfish in their stomachs. We'll see mussels in their stomachs, and there are quite a few mussel beds in portions of the reservoir. I haven't heard anybody specifically tell me that those are the best places to find sturgeon, but we do know that they eat them. I've seen a lot of crayfish in their stomachs, and I've seen yellow perch in their stomach. I think they're pretty opportunistic. I mean, those things are basically a vacuum cleaner with a tail, and they're just catching whatever they can up there. And growth rates up there are just phenomenal. Those fish probably grow faster than the fish in the estuary. So, you look at this big, broad, clean-looking reservoir and think, well, it doesn't look that productive. But apparently there's enough forage to grow sturgeon really well. They're beautiful fish.
Interesting. What, for folks that are considering venturing up there, excuse me, for the first time, what would be the number one, number two choices of bait to entice these critters?
Yeah, it's more of the inland stuff. Roll-mop herring's very popular. Pickled squid, pickled herring, just straight herring that you put a bunch of sauce on seems to work. Guys have tried chunks of trout. You can use a dead trout, right? That's legal to use.
Right.
I've heard of guys trying kokanee. Haven't heard of anybody trying sand shrimp. They might work if you're coming from the coast. Bring a few with you.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, any of that stuff that you think smells fresh. I mean, sturgeon love fresh bait. Right. They don't want to eat the rotten stuff.
Yep.
And anything that you think kind of resembles forage they might run into, I think is a good try. There's guys that just use big balls of night crawlers. So
a night crawler will catch anything.
Yes, a night crawler will catch anything, and it's fun to put that on a bobber 150 feet down.
Right.
I mean, bobber fishing for sturgeon 150 feet of water. Who doesn't want to do that with a worm, right?
I will do it.
Yeah. So
we got a question here from a viewer. Is there any way to tell the difference between a hatchery sturgeon and a wild stock sturgeon, other than, I guess you'd say, the size?
Yeah, fair question. And there absolutely is. And it's probably more to the trained eye than it would be to the neophyte. But what we do with those fish is every one of those has a pit tag, which is, I think, a term that everybody around salmon steelhead knows now. It's an acronym for passive integrated transponder. But really, that thing just gives us a code that we can read so we can identify that fish. So that's one way we can track them. But the other is, along the sides of the fish, the barbs along the heavy scales along the sides of those are called scoots. We remove the scoots in differing patterns to identify different age classes of fish.
Oh, so interesting.
If you were to look at the sides of those fish, you could see if they were missing a scoot and know that it was a hatchery fish. I think the secret here that folks need to understand is we're not harvesting wild fish. There isn't any recruitment in these sizes, or such minimal recruitment that we can't identify it, that we think there's any conservation risk of harvesting wild fish. If we thought we were going to harm a lot of wild fish with this fishery, we very likely would not have it open.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Don't you guys kind of rely on some of those tribal fisheries too, as they're capturing those fish and they're getting predominantly all hatchery fish, and that's in that size or slot limit? You guys get reassurance that there really are not a lot of wild recruitment into that age class?
Yeah, there's just not much. In fact, over the last, let's say, 30 years, we think we can identify 2 recruitment events.
Oh, wow.
One corresponded with 1997, and I believe the other was with water year 2011. And if we go back and look, those are just massive water years where we got lucky and some larvae got spread out before they disappeared. And,
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
is a little bit of that.
Sorry. So is the hatchery program still up and running today?
Yeah, and actually, I think it's really important, and this is kind of cool, and it's really different than what we do with salmon and steelhead, is realizing that you have all these domestication issues, right? And I'm sure you guys talk about that on this program, and why hatchery fish are good or bad, and the domestication risks and productivity of fish, right? So we realized that we could be falling into similar traps with sturgeon and started looking for innovative ways to solve that. And one of the things we did is, we know we have a spawning population of fish up there. We knew they produced larvae that then at some point after those larvae emerged, they disappeared, right? So a fellow by the name of Jason McClellan that used to work for us, now works for the Colville tribe, came up with a really good idea to set up these D-ring nets. Essentially, they look like a giant butterfly net that sits on the bottom of the reservoir, and they collect larvae.
Oh,
wow.
we pull these larvae out of the nets. Both the Spokane and the Colville tribes do the larval collection. They bring those larvae down to Sherman Creek Hatchery, and then we rear them. So we've completely eliminated the use of brood stock. And all of the spawning occurs in the wild. We simply grab the larvae out of the open environment and rear them.
Oh,
wow. Very interesting.
That is interesting. That's a brilliant idea.
Right.
It's kind of like a downriver smolt trap, but it's you're just grabbing the larvae early stage and bringing them in a hatchery to rear them for a while and then release them again, right?
Right. What size are these? What size are these fingerlings when you release them?
Oh, they're 200 grams. So I don't know what that means. There's 2.54 grams per ounce, or I forget what it is.
Okay.
They're small.
You either need a scientist or a drug dealer to help you figure out what size that is. So
hold your finger on about 5 inches.
Okay.
5 inches. Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, lots of great information there, Chris, as you always bring to the table. We appreciate your insight. A lot of good stuff for folks to kind of wrap their head around on how this program was developed, why it exists. The opportunity is there. There's a good number of slot limit size fish to go out there and attain, so folks should go there with anticipation of finding and being able to retain some of these fish. So great job on that program. Before we let you go, we kind of want to segue. Our Lake Roosevelt discussion with you is kind of two-part. We will have you back on next week. Something that has caught my attention quite some time ago, and I've been following just to kind of keep up on what is going on throughout Washington State, and specifically with Lake Roosevelt. You have a concern, and I forget exactly how you specified that to me, a serious concern of sorts relative to the northern pike predation issue and the existence of northern pike in Lake Roosevelt currently. So we are going to tackle that next week with you. Help educate folks and get an understanding of the severity of this, where it's going, money's needed to continue to work towards eliminating these fish, and if we don't and the population continues to grow and they get downriver in the system, how problematic that will in fact be. Does that kind of sum it up for what we're going to delve into next week?
Yeah, I think it's real fair, and just to sort of bait people into listening next week, I think it's a crisis.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting crisis, but it's a crisis.
Right.
Wow.
Well, we'll look forward to having that discussion with you. I'll talk to you later in the week, figure out what time we're going to get you on the show. But that one interests me and Barnum tremendously, and so I'm hoping folks will tune in for that, as again, you will bring a ton of relevant information that folks need to hear on this northern pike crisis in Lake Roosevelt. Thanks so much for joining us tonight and going down the road of everything we need to know about these sturgeon, and hopefully folks are enticed to go on over there and get some. So have a good evening. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
All righty. Says here 28 grams is an ounce. Thank you, Shane Vanderlinde. Don't know how he knows grams and ounces, but hey, what folks do on their days off.
Maybe he lived in Canada.
It's legal now. Barnum? Doggone it. Hey, before we get out of here, we want to welcome our friends of Nowhere to Hunt. Okay, these are actually Jeff and Rick. Barnum and I talked to this last year at the Puyallup Sportsman Show.
Yep.
They caught our attention. Get access to some of the best private waterfowl hunting fields in Washington State. Nowhere to Hunt has access to prime fields in Skagit County. Now, if you haven't been up there, that's where you want to be hunting when it comes to waterfowl, especially early season. Other great waterfowl areas in Washington. They have two membership types that they basically present to you that you can purchase and become part of this great opportunity. A flat rate membership, unlimited hunts for $1,100 is a normal fee. Right now, on sale to the end of the month, so the end of June, they bumped that down to $900, or you can opt to do a pay-as-you-go membership, which is for $200 per person, for the person looking to hunt 5 to 7 times throughout the season. Oh, okay. So two different membership styles that they provide. Again, they've secured a lot of fields, a lot of land up there in Skagit County, a mecca of waterfowl hunting. So you waterfowl hunters, pay attention. If you are constantly fighting public lands, too many people, get there into a box blind or a blind area at 2 in the morning to try and reserve your spot, and it's just not working for you and you're frustrated. You want to get kids out. You want to introduce kids into waterfowl hunting. You want to get spouses out. Grandpa wants to get grandkids out. membership type opportunities is what you want to do. When we went out hunting with Cody over at Miller Ranch, for example, for upland birds, great opportunity to expose youth and first timers into this hunting type arena. So avoid the 15 shell limit, long lines, and overhunted fields associated with a public hunt, as I mentioned, for an affordable price. Learn tried and true hunting techniques from seasoned guides and members. Know where to hunt is where quality hunters can access quality waterfowl habitat. Go to www.kwth.com. Join today, find out all their information, pricing, and get a ton of information. Go to their website, check it out, join up. I'm pretty sure you'll be glad you did. And we're going to talk with Rick and Jeff later on this season. We're going to try to put something together to get followers of Fish Hunt Northwest up there for a day of waterfowl pursuit on some of their lands. So we'll see if we can't work that out. All right, we're going to jump out for a break. We come back, we're going to finally be in the bait lab, Barnum.
Yep.
You had one hell of a day yesterday out on the flat ocean, if you will.
On the pond.
You have a sea bass and a lingcod?
I got a sea bass and a lingcod. We're going to talk a little bit about anatomy.
Oh, perfect.
Right. Talk a little bit about how to fish them.
Okay.
And we're going to clean them.
And we're going to clean them.
Yep.
For those that are leery about how you actually get the meat off a laying, how you fillet out a sea bass, Barnum's going to take you through that step by step. Pay attention. We're going to talk anatomy on bottom fish and bottom dwellers out of the ocean less than 24 hours ago, right here on FHM. We come back.
Hey guys, we're back here live in the bait lab, and today I'm going to be kind of going through how to clean a couple different species of bottom fish. Today yesterday, like I said, we had a great fishing trip out of Westport. Actually stayed really close inshore. Fished about the 100-foot line. When you come out of Westport and you kind of head north, there's quite a few rock piles in that 100-foot line. I don't know exactly how far offshore that is, maybe 3-4 miles at the most, if that. But as you head north along that 100-foot line, there's little underwater outcroppings all along there. And we kind of stayed close to the marina, and we were able to hammer out a 5-person limit of lean cod, and put a dozen or so sea bass. This is a black rockfish. This is what most of us just call sea bass. Put a dozen or so of those in the boat, and we really went out and focused on lean cod, and these were kind of a byproduct of the lean cod fishery. We did target them for a little bit, actually ended up catching one that was a beautiful 5+ pounder, the biggest sea bass that I've ever caught, so I was pretty jacked up about that. But if you look at the sea bass, you'll notice, and I don't know if you can see this with the overhead, but this is a crucial thing with sea bass. This is the air bladder here in its mouth. You can see this kind of ugly pink thing just above the tongue here. This is what blows out on bottom fish when you pull them up from the depth. And that's why Fish and Wildlife really, I believe they do require at this point that you have some type of a descending device in your boat in case you run into a species of fish you're not allowed to keep, or maybe you choose not to keep one of these guys, and so that you get that fish down slowly so he has a chance to decompress. So, you know, this will actually, in fact, if you don't give him the opportunity to decompress, he cannot go back down to the bottom on his own when that bladder blows out. As far as I know, lean cod do not have that same problem. But when we look inside a lean cod's mouth, these guys are just, you know, beautiful. Look at these teeth. I mean, they are an ambush predator. They hide in the rocks. You know, they sense vibration. Our tactic we used to fish these, where we were fishing an 8 to 10 ounce banana lead. We were bouncing it along the rock pile. Off of that banana lead, we were running about a 2 to 2.5 foot leader with just a herring on it. Not plug cut, not rigged any special way, just a mooching rig through the top of the head, out through the body. And these lean cod will actually hide in the crevices in the rocks, and they will hear that lead bouncing along, and they'll kind of get an idea of what it is, and then they see that shiny fish and they hammer it. We fished these fish on really light tackle yesterday. Realistically, for a comparison, a steelhead rod. And we did have a little bit of trouble. We hooked a few larger ones that got back down in the rocks before we were able to put the backbone on the rod to get them up. So that is a risk you run when you're using that light tackle, that you will lose some fish back into the rocks. But hey, when you're out, you know, 6 to 10 pound lean cod on a very light rod, it's a really good time. But let's get into cleaning these guys, and I'll start with the lean cod. Now, I caught these yesterday. I didn't gut them like I did the sturgeon a couple weeks ago, because I just wanted to show you guys the no gut method. So I go in through here, through the anal vent, and I just open this up. And you know, much like a salmon, I'm just trying to get this open so that I can run along my fillet. And it does get a little bit messy, but hey, we're cleaning fish. This isn't, you know, we're not painting a house or anything. I mean, we're just cleaning fish. So slit it open, there you see it there, going right back behind the gills, right behind this main front fin right here, and just run that diagonally down into that backbone, okay? And then we're just gonna run that backbone all the way back, keeping it going until we get out to that tail and come off of the tail. And that easily, we have a beautiful fillet. And just to save a little time, I'll stop there on that, set this aside, and I'll go to the sea bass. I do the sea bass the exact same way. I come into the anal vent, between the fins on the bottom. They're a little bonier there between the fins. Push it up towards the mouth. Again, going behind this fin here, 45-degree angle, down to the spine, making sure that I'm cutting here behind the fin so that I'm loose. I'm completely loose on the belly now. You can see that. Get here down to the backbone, roll it back, taking it all the way off to the tail, and boom, we have a beautiful sea bass fillet. So now we have to take that from here to fish and chip ready. Okay, so I will start on the rib bone. Now, a little bit different than a salmon, we really try to save that belly on a salmon, but there is not a ton of meat on a sea bass and a lean cod down in the belly. They have really thin bellies. So you're gonna get, here, I'll make sure we're getting good on camera, David. Get in just like you do on a salmon, underneath them rib bones, and they have very tough rib bones on that top half. And just work your way down that, just like you would a salmon, until you get down here to where you can see that silver skin, okay? And then once I get to that silver skin, I just remove that. I don't do a lot of halibut fishing, but I've been told by guys, lingcod bellies, sea bass bellies make absolutely excellent halibut bait. I use them a lot for putting in my crab pots and our bait bags in the crab pots. So I'm off of that. Now, I'm gonna go to removing this meat off of the skin. And I kind of showed you guys this trick when we were doing the sturgeon. I start my fillet, I start peeling it off, and then I'll take the fillet, go to the skin, cut a hole. Here's the hole. All I do is take the tip of the knife and I cut a hole. What this allows me to do is get the knife on a flat edge and put my finger through that hole. Now I can hold on to that skin. It's not slipping out of my hands. I don't have to worry about anything else except just slowly working that knife through the fillet, and you come off with a perfect fillet, okay? The lean cod is absolutely identical. I'll work down this rib bone. Again, being a bottom fish, those rib bones that cut into the meat are very tough. I mean, you have to be a little careful there and have a pretty sharp knife to get through those. So work through there, move that belly section. That's our crab bait, that's our halibut bait. I'm sure you can probably even smoke that. I'm sure guys have probably tried that. I have not yet. And then I go right back to this fillet, kind of dig my finger in, working from the nail, so I can get the fillet started. And that's exactly why I cut this hole, because they're so slippery to get the fillet started. And so then once I have it started, I cut that hole. Kind of hard on the rubber mat, but I get that hole cut, get my finger through it, and just slide that knife right along that skin and make a beautiful fillet. Now I actually take these as I pack them up. I'll take my knife and run it underneath the rib bones here that you can feel, the pin bones, and then I'll run it over the top, and I'll actually just remove that section of meat that runs right down the middle that has the pin bones, so that we pull it out. We're gonna make fish tacos, we're gonna make fish and chips. I don't have to worry about bones at all. I just don't want when people are dining, whether it's family or friends, and they come over and bite into a fish taco, to see them digging at bones. It's just not very appetizing. But guys, it's super simple. Sharp knife, say 8 to 9 inch blade. Remember to poke that hole to help you get through without having that skin slipping out of your hands. And right there, you have some of the best, in my opinion, black rockfish, some of the best fish taco meat you could absolutely have. So we're gonna head out of here, and we're gonna throw it into the kitchen to Chef Kelly and Sherry, and they are cooking up something absolutely delicious, and I can't wait to see it.
Everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen for the recipe of the week, and we're having some fun this afternoon, early evening, making some halibut.
Yes, halibut.
Yeah.
I love halibut. Yay. Everybody loves halibut. And it's that time of year. So I am doing and sharing one of my recipes that I vowed to never ever share. But I found out it's online now, so it's like, hey, I'm not,
Just let it go now.
Let's let it go.
Share away.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to be doing halibut misuyaki, and you can substitute true cod. If you're lucky enough to catch a true cod or ling cod, that's fantastic too. We're just going to be using halibut today. Okay.
What makes it so lucky to get true cod?
I don't know. I don't know what the secret is.
You're unlucky?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so. I don't know. It's secret bait or something.
Okay.
So we're going to do misuyaki halibut over furikake rice. I'll explain that later. And with baby bok choy. Okay. So we're going to get this fish started, and so I'll circle back to the recipe. So.
Okay, good, because I have some questions.
Okay.
Clarification.
Clarification. So we got our pan nice and hot. Get that searing away.
Wow, that's loud.
You can see immediately caramelization already.
Why is that so quick?
Well, because the misuyaki has a lot of sugar in it, and so what we're doing is we're getting a nice little sear on it. Go ahead and take that over there. Yeah. We're gonna get a nice little sear on it, and then we're gonna finish it in the oven. So this is not one that you can really try to finish it on the stovetop, because you're gonna be fighting too much color. So just throw it in the oven and let it cook away.
Look at the fire alarm didn't go off.
Oh yeah? Don't curse me, okay? I already did that the other day.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna make a little bit of sauce for the bok choy.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's bok choy?
Bok choy is a Chinese cabbage. You can be really big or little baby guys like this.
Oh, so it's a Chinese cabbage.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Looks good.
We're gonna do a little bit of water in here. Let that do its thing. Okay, so let's talk about the misuyaki. So misuyaki is a mixture of sake, 1 cup of sake, 1 cup of mirin. I usually do like 1.5 pounds of miso, but I've kind of dumbed down the recipe down to just 1 container, which is 13 ounces of miso. This happens to be red miso, and then 2 cups of sugar.
So there's a yellow miso too?
You probably will come across yellow miso also. And yellow miso is just a different fermentation process. I like red, but you ask 10 different chefs, they're all going to have their own opinion about things.
Of course.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to cook this all down, all those ingredients together, until it becomes kind of like about this color here. Now when it's bubbling away, it has air in it, so it's going to look lighter than what it's going to actually turn to, which is, this is the color that we're kind of shooting for.
That's crazy.
Right? I mean,
you can turn it upside down and it's like stick in there.
Yeah, it's hard, okay? So this is the deal about dealing with this stuff, is that you need to deal with it when it's still kind of warm. And so what you're going to do is, while it's still warm, you're just going to kind of glaze it and then throw it into a Ziploc bag and throw it into the refrigerator and let it do its thing.
So the refrigerator, for how long?
Minimum of a day. And you can go up to a week. It just depends on if it's like a super thick piece, like a big thick piece of ling cod, yes, I would do it like, 3-4 days. If don't be afraid to use it.
And does that like cure it?
Yes, it's literally like cured, because it has so much sugar and salt in there. That's what's going on.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, how hot did you have that oven?
400 degrees.
400. Okay.
Okay.
In about 5 minutes?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of garnish here. We did some pickled daikon here, which is a Japanese radish. It's big. It's, you just peel it.
And you pickled it.
Yeah, and I pickled it, a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of sugar.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so we're almost there. Our bok choy is all ready to go. I pre-blanched it. So why don't you give me some rice, and we'll actually start plating this thing.
Wow. All right.
So
I'm ready if you are.
Fast this goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna make furikake rice. So this is furikake here. It's called norikomi furikake. It's a pre-made kind of a sesame seed, nori, sugar, and some other stuff in there. It's just super delicious. Actually, I'll put it right in there.
So just an everyday rice, you like that too?
Oh yeah, I used to sprinkle this on just my plain rice.
And you
really
can find that anywhere? Or?
You can find it at the Asian market or online. And there's lots of different versions of it. There's some that have straight, have a lot of bonita flakes in it and other kind of stuff. I would just stick with the standard nori furikake.
Okay.
Okay. So we're also going to, I also had some leftover jade pesto. We'll let that heat up over there.
All right.
Okay. So I'm gonna put a little bit of cilantro, a little bit of green onions.
Guess I can take this down.
Yes.
Heavy.
Okay. Okay, take that. That's a pretty color.
Yeah, it is.
Still a little bit of water here.
This rice looks amazing. Just that, adding just that.
A little bit of bok choy.
Bok choy, miso.
You love that word, don't you?
Yes, miso likey.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Our jade pesto cream sauce.
You said that's just like heavy cream and what
our
else did you put in there?
A little bit of white wine to give a little acid, heavy cream, and reduce that down. Then I added my jade pesto.
Yeah, that was probably no more than 5 minutes.
Right? So there you go. I mean, it's that's fully cooked. Just like that.
Served over the rice. Okay.
And if you want to get a little fancy, we'll put a little pickled ginger or pickled daikon on top, which is just a little bit of vinegar and sugar.
Oh.
There you go. I'm gonna put a little more
What?
cilantro.
You know me, I'm always shoving the
Right.
green onions at you.
I don't care
Okay.
what kind of food you do, but this is about as high end as you can get, and this is really not that tough.
Really simple. The only thing dealing with the one, what is that? Miso?
Yeah, the miso,
Yeah.
the misoyaki.
Yeah.
That marinade, but it's worth it. I mean,
It is.
So yeah, I would do you could actually do a couple of batches ahead of time, and then freeze them, and then so that.
Oh, you just warm them up and then.
Well, no, I mean you just it's already marinated.
Oh, I
and so
see.
you
Okay.
don't have to deal with this marinade
Okay.
process.
Sounds great.
Several times.
Sounds great to me, Chef.
All right. Well.
All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and shoot it back to the guys in the studio.
I want to taste this.
Yes, we are.
Well, as it does each and every week, that recipe looks amazing.
Yeah.
Little involved, but actually not too bad. Misoyaki halibut baby bok choy over nori Furikake.
Say that 3 times fast.
Well, I can't. I actually had to write it down because it's a lengthy title. Right. 3 different moving parts there to get that done. Right. My only fear was watching this whole thing unfold is I thought Chef was burning down my kitchen.
Right. It's actually not on fire right now.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Which I hope not because I'm off duty. Right. I don't do anything when I'm off duty, so don't have a heart attack on me, Barton.
Let it burn.
Yeah. So that one looks pretty amazing, and as we do each and every week, once it's done, Shing keeps a little on the side warm for us. We get to go in there and try it out, and I'm hoping all the smoke is out of the house by the time we go in there. So, well done. Hey, kind of an interesting way this show has come together. Just by chance, you got out on the ocean yesterday, got some of those toothy critters off the bottom. Chef's in there doing halibut. Right now, we're going to jump to a quick weather report. I say quick because we're kind of falling behind a little bit, but not too bad. And you're going to talk about some safety things to consider when you want to go out in pursuit of lings and bass and salmon, anytime we're crossing the bar. So let's get into your weather and then kind of roll that into your next topic of importance, because I find it pretty fascinating, Barnum.
I wanted to talk about this a little bit because June 22nd is coming up, and we are going to have a lot of people crossing bars, whether it be Columbia, whether it be Westport, you know, wherever. People are going to be out chasing salmon, and we're going to be crossing bars. Here you can see this is Westport. If I zoom in here a little bit, this is the Westport Marina. This is kind of where the charter boats hang out here, and then this is your launch. You know, you come out around here and you run this bar. Westport is, for me, I mean, I live on the Willapa, and I have the opportunity potentially to run out of Willapa. I could launch at Tokeland. The reason I don't hardly run out of Willapa is because of the fact that there is no Coast Guard station there. Right. So if you're going out across that bar and you have issues, help is 20 minutes, half hour away. In Westport, you have a Coast Guard station. If something goes wrong, it's going to be a really quick response. What I want to point out to people, and I hear this all the time, I mean, we'll make decisions and we'll say, hey, I'm not going to fish this weekend because the weather's looking terrible. The wave conditions are bad. The bar conditions are bad. I'm not going. And I talk to people all the time that tell me, oh, where do you check that? And they go out in the ocean a lot. And so if you go to, this is the NOAA weather site. And if you just do an easy Google search, type in ocean swell report, type in ocean weather conditions. This page right here is going to come up, and it's going to be a map, and then you click on, I don't know if I can zoom out here, but you click on the area on the map where you want to see the ocean report for, and this is going to come up, the forecast for the next 4 or 5 days. Like this weekend, you're going to see wind waves 2 feet or less, west swell 4 feet 7 seconds, Sunday 4 feet at 13 seconds. If you're looking at crossing the bar, going out into the ocean, you should never go out into the ocean without looking at this, ever.
What's your no-go?
It starts getting up to 7 feet. Yeah. I'll go 6 feet at 9 seconds. Anything for me, I'm running a 20-foot boat. Right. Anything for me, if I start seeing 7, or if I start seeing, say, that 6 foot dropping down to like 7 or 8 seconds, I just don't go. Remember when you're looking at that, when you see the wind waves, which on this one down here on Tuesday, we'll have a wind wave of 1 to 3 feet with a west swell of 5 feet. So you're looking at 6 to 8 feet once you put that wind chop on top.
When you put it together,
Yeah, stack it together. Yep. And the distance on, you know, the distance between them, the 16 seconds, the 13 seconds, that's going to really give you an idea of how rapid those waves are coming and what those conditions are. The farther that is apart, the smoother the ocean.
Would you have yesterday 12 feet?
They were calling for 5 feet at 12 seconds.
12 seconds, yeah.
And it was like 2 feet at 20 seconds. Yeah, it
beautiful.
Was, right.
Like you said, like my lake.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I always look at the forecast, and I always look at that afternoon. Like, you know, Friday night, they're calling for 10 to 20 with wind waves. I always assume that afternoon weather is going to hit around 1 o'clock. Yep. And so I'm trying to get out of there before 1 o'clock so I don't have to deal with that. I went to the Coast Guard webpage here, and they have a very interesting thing here for the Westport bar crossing. They kind of have a map that gives you the danger areas. So if you guys get a chance, go to their page. You know, just type in again, Grays Harbor Bar. This Coast Guard link here will pop up, and it has a map of danger areas. It talks about the bar sign. This sign here, this bar crossing sign, is actually at the Westport Marina, and you can tune your radio to 1610 as you're getting your boat ready, as you're launching your boat, and you'll get up to the date bar reports, up to the day wave reports, right up to the minute, so you can make a decision, and a smart decision. Am I going to cross the bar? One thing is, we know you try to avoid bar crossings at max ebb and max flood. You know, I try to time my bar crossings if the tides allow. I try to time my bar crossings for, you know, the slack tides, your high flood, your low slack, and cross the bar at those times, because the more current that's running out of that river, meeting that ocean current, the bigger the wave's going to be.
Something we'll do later tonight after we get off the show, we'll put up a couple links to our favorite weather sites, bar crossing information, and information that we discussed here today. We'll put that on our site just in case you're not familiar with it, and or if you use some other weather link or site that you prefer, maybe you could check these out and see how they compare. If you have a favorite that you use and want to share with other folks out there as well, please post it up on our Facebook page, and we will make sure we get that information out to everybody. It's all about everybody going out, having a great time and being safe, especially out on the ocean.
Right, and just remember, I mean, check those bar reports, because if you get out in the middle of that bar and it's more than you can handle, you're in a really tough spot, because it is really, really dangerous to turn around.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, make sure when you head out that you know you're safe. All your life jackets, all your safety devices, be on the ball.
You don't necessarily have to have a large enough boat to get out in the ocean. You just have to have friends that have a large enough boat to get out in the ocean. So, you know, you can't own them all. It's like you got to pick and choose, and whatever you do more. If you want to get out in the ocean 1 or 2 days a year, have buddies that have boats, or go with a charter captain and get it done. Of which, kind of a segue, we're gonna jump out for a break. When we come back, we're talking with Ian Winder, captain with All Rivers and Saltwater Charters. Been doing it for years. The guy can get you dialed in. We'll talk a little bit of safety. We'll talk a little bit of boat control. We'll talk when, how, and where in some regards to go find these lingcod and bass of your choosing. And of course, we'll talk a little bit of salmon as we have the opener coming up on the 22nd of June. Reminder, we'll be down in Oahu during that time. And of course, we'll probably even brush into the tuna zone just a skosh, because that is not too far down the road as well. Jumping out for a break, we come back. We'll have Ian on the phone. Stick with us right after this. More to come on FHN.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals. So we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
and turn.
Welcome back to FHN. Just getting equipment situated here. Before we jump on the phone with Ian Barnum, we got a question here asking about hook choices when targeting lings, single, double, or treble. I know what you like to run, so let's talk about that real quick. We'll get Ian on the phone. We'll pick his brain on the same question. Right,
because Ian is a much more weathered lingcod fisherman than I am, but I just use a regular mooching rig.
Yeah.
Just like we use for salmon, trolling in the salt with a herring. Like I said, a 2 to 3 foot leader, spacing those hooks about 3 to 4 fingers apart.
Yep.
And just one through the top of the head, one through the middle of the body, and they hook up really good.
What size hook?
Like a 5/0.
5/0?
Yeah.
Double fives?
Yeah, just double five.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, Mike, these are some of the newer shirts, and we do have more choices in other colors as well. Going to bring that point up, and we're down in Oahu. We have hoodies. We have heavy hoodies, light hoodies. We'll have our new hats out. We'll have about 4 or 5 different colors of T-shirts with logos and items to go. So, Yep. So. Anyway, lots more questions coming in, and we will get to those. Right now, we're going to jump on the phone because Ian's been waiting patiently. Captain with All Rivers and Saltwater Charters, been doing it for a number of years. The man is a professional on the water and gets it done day in and day out. How are you doing this evening, Ian?
Oh, I'm doing good. How about you, gentlemen?
Hey, we're doing great now that we kind of got the technical bugs worked out, and our earbuds are working and our phones are working, and life is good. So appreciate you waiting around to talk to us this evening. Always a pleasure to get you on the phone. It's been a while. Did you get out on the water today?
No. Luckily, we're off today. Got to come home and spend the day with the family.
So good. That's awesome. But you got out yesterday, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Absolutely. As was mentioned earlier, just absolutely gorgeous day out there.
Yeah. You've been working with Mark and the gang there at All Rivers and Saltwater Charters for a number of years. You do a great job out there. I think he told me the other day that lingcod and bottomfish, or rockfish, bass, and what have you, is one of your more go-to fisheries that you actually prefer versus, say, take folks out on salmon all the time. Why is that?
It's just the amount of action. You can run into just so much fish all the time. You're constantly got a rod in your hand. You're fishing, you're angling, you're working. There's just great action, and usually almost always some great take home as well.
Yeah,
right.
And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy it.
Right. Do you prefer the shallow opportunity, or this year with this deep water option on these lings? What do you prefer?
Both are really good. This year we were definitely given a gift with kind of the depth restriction being lifted, and we got 15 days to kind of go target water that was only open to us during designated halibut days. And I'll tell you what, that's been pretty special. That's made for some really fast action on just amazing quality fish.
And on that deeper water, obviously the quality of fish you're seeing is probably much larger too. What's the average size of fish you guys have been getting out there?
It's still, I'd say average size has been kind of in that 15-pound range, and up to 30 pounds.
Wow.
Everybody's a little different, but sometimes it's, you're averaging 20 to 25. But I'd say a typical fish is 15 pounds.
Now you're running one of the boats in Coleman's fleet there, and you can accommodate up to 6. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, 6 anglers per boat, and we have 4 boats.
Yeah. So when you get 6 folks on board and you're going out after lings and rockfish, bottomfish, what have you, what's your typical setup? How do you target these guys?
So our go-to for sure is, when available, is live bait. We love grabbing flounder and taking flounder to the lingcod. It's a very exciting bite. One, I love catching flounder. That's probably my favorite part of the day. But getting those lingcod to go on live bait is something really, really exciting if you haven't done it. Herring works great. You can, run a typical mooching rig and catch lingcod throughout the season for sure.
Right.
Especially early season is really, really good. As the season progresses, you'll notice that, for the most part, that herring bite really starts to slow down. But if you slide into the same spots with some live flounder, it's pretty much game over.
How are you guys targeting those flounder? I mean, how far offshore are you targeting those? What depth of water, and what are you guys using to catch those?
It's some of the inshore stuff's pretty tricky. You got to find that sandy bottom, and you'd think there would just be flounder everywhere. It's not as easy as that.
Right.
When the depth restriction especially gets lifted lure lifted, you can run just about almost any direction and hit roughly about 180 feet of water, and you're going to find sand.
Okay.
And you're pretty much golden. Just about anywhere in about 180 feet of water, you're going to find what you're looking for.
And are you using?
So that you can.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, are you using those flounder in the shallow fishery as well as the deep water fishery?
We are, for sure. Yeah. We definitely noticed that completely changed the game for us when we were able to get a hold of flounder and use flounder on a daily basis.
Right. And you're holding those in a live well, obviously, I assume.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, correct. But flounder are pretty hardy fish. You don't need that live well. Obviously, for long-term holding, for a long day, it's going to make a big difference. But honestly, you could stick them in a 5-gallon bucket full of, fresh seawater, and they're going to last a while. And if you need to, you can just add fresh water to it. But
right.
What size of flounder are you kind of keying in on? Are some of them too big, you throw back, you go, that's just too big, or is there no such thing as too big a bait for a big-headed ling?
So I would definitely say there's no such thing as too big of a bait.
That's what I would think too. Yeah.
What you'll run into is we do like to get these fish hooked up. We don't try to rely too much on a piggybacking scenario where they're just going to hold onto the bait and ride it up. So when we're going deep water, I rarely turn back a bait. When we're more inshore, I'll start turning back baits. If I get baits that are, I'd say bigger than 10 inches, I'll start, unless I'm having a hard time getting flounder, which sometimes happen, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Right.
We usually go for what we like to call milk duds, the nice small little ones, the bite-sized ones.
Right.
They make things a lot better.
Gotcha.
Right. Now, are you guys using any plastics at all when you're targeting lingcod? Any type of jigs or
swim baits, anything like that?
Really not. Swim baits can work really, really well. In the past, we've utilized them, especially in some of the shallower water spots.
Mm-hmm.
You get some of the spots under 100 feet, and, there's lingcod out there on rocks that are in 30 feet of water. You get a swim bait down on them, they will not hesitate to eat that. But for us, running 6 anglers every day, that gets expensive. We're using a lot of gear, pounding the bottom with swim baits. And a lot of times, too, just even getting a smaller, compact swim bait to the bottom properly in a windy condition or a high current condition can be difficult.
Right. How are you hooking up those flounder then? You fish a lot of live bait, it sounds like. And so how exactly, if you can describe so folks can kind of visualize, how do you hook that bait up so it kind of, continues to move around, swim freely, albeit it's dragging a weight around, but
right.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that mooching setup. There's many different ways to do it, but the easiest way to do it is anywhere from a 6 to 16 ounce banana weight with a 2.5 to 3 foot leader. Usually something a little stiffer. It'll help keep that flounder out and help it from twisting on the way down. Something 50 to 80 pound test.
Okay.
And it's basically a mooching leader, 2 single hooks, 7 to 9 aughts. And the spacing, you got to play with. But usually the spacing is roughly going to be, 4 to 6 inches between the hooks.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, so we kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to get a seasoned captain's perspective on weather, conducive weather to heading out over the bar. What's kind of your no-go when you guys call off your trips? I mean, how bad does it have to be? How snotty does the ocean have to turn up on you? And what are maybe 1 or 2 of the weather apps or the sites that folks can go to that you guys rely on that's going to give you solid information and let you know that you can take clients out for the day and you're going to have a safe outing?
There's a lot that goes into that thought process.
Yeah.
There's, all the captains get together and really start looking at different weather to see whether or not we can run the trip successfully or whether it's going to be safe, or even whether it's just going to be fun, period. The bottom fish trips, we have to watch a little bit more due to, higher wind scenarios. We just can't fish properly.
Right.
For us, anything, sustained winds or 15 or more, it makes it really, really difficult fishing, even if the swells are really low.
Yeah.
So that's a big, gray area. As soon as we start getting around the 15 knot area, whether or not we can successfully run the trip.
Right.
Other trips like tuna fishing, we can successfully fish in a sustained 15 knots. Not always the most fun, but we can do it.
Yeah.
We're not relying on hovering over a certain rock pile and threading a needle from 150 feet.
Right.
It really varies. For us, it's usually combined seas greater than 10 feet. We've got a little different boats, and we're out there doing it all the time. But there's a lot of variables in there. Swell height, swell duration between the swells, direction of travel. So much goes into it.
Sure. Right, and a lot of that's probably gut feeling also. I mean, I know when I'm looking at those swell reports, it's just you get that gut feeling like, tomorrow's not the day.
It goes back to the old saying that I absolutely love. It's better to be at the dock wishing you were out there than out there wishing you were at the dock.
That's a good point.
That is a very good point.
I'm going to write that one down, yeah. Real quick before we let you go, Ian, so you guys offer quite an opportunity on all different facets of fishing. You offer combo trips. Obviously, salmon season opens, as we've mentioned numerous times, and it's no news to you. June 22nd, we'll have salmon opportunity now for Chinook. Out there in the ocean, and you guys run combo trips, you run exclusive lingcod, bottom fish trips, and then of course down the road and not too far off, we'll start talking tuna. So give us a quick summary of the types of trip or packages folks can put together or check out with what you got going on there at All Rivers and Saltwater Charters.
Yeah, we've got everything from, your standard inshore bottom fishing trip where we kind of stick a little bit closer to shore, fish your lingcod, your rockfish. Then we've got kind of an upgraded trip that allows us to go a little bit further when depth of restrictions are lifted, or we have areas that are open where we go target deeper water, which would be a really successful trip. But we do burn a little bit more fuel for them. And then we have straight salmon trips where we'll spend the day targeting, trying to get everything we can, limited out on salmon, and then combo trips, which are great. Those salmon are free roaming out there. There's no specific spot. Sometimes those salmon just disappear overnight.
Yep.
Which still allows you to get a chance to load up on some rockfish if need be. Or, best case scenario, you get both.
Right.
And then kind of our holy grail for us is tuna. Mm-hmm. And that's right around the corner for us, for sure.
Yep, definitely
we're right in the zone. We've had, I think, 2016, we were on tuna heavily by June 16th.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
It could be any time in the next few weeks. Typically, it's around the first week of July. We're seeing some water. It's still pretty far out there, but you can trust that we've got our eye on it. We'll let you know when they get close.
Sure. I know you guys are extremely busy, often booked. Have a few openings here and there that folks can get on the website or give you a call and try to figure out where they could squeeze in?
Yeah, absolutely. Get on the website there. You can give All Rivers and Saltwater Charters a call or an email. We've got, a handful of weekend spots available, and we do have some weekday available.
Perfect.
As well, but over the next, month and a half, that's gonna all fill up pretty fast.
Yep, for good reason. Going to be a nice, hot, dry summer. If the wind doesn't get too crazy, they'll be out day in and day out, grinding it out and getting you out on those trips. Ian's always a pleasure. My friend, don't go too far away because we will come back at you and pick your brain from time to time, see how the season's going. Definitely going to get you back to talk tuna. And at some point, going to get your ass in the studio here to join us and have a cold one and talk fishing.
All of that sounds great, Dwayne. That sounds awesome.
Right on, man. All right. Well, appreciate you taking the time this evening, and we'll be in touch, my friend.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Stay safe out there.
Right.
Yep. Been doing it for a long time. Definitely one of the boys in the Coleman regime that has it dialed in. Is great, whether he's out there on the saltwater or even this fall salmon fishing. They run those tuna trips late, so by the time he gets to the river, it's pretty late in season. But he will get out there, and of course, always a pleasure to fish with for winter run steelhead as well. We've had some great times out there on the coast. Definitely worth looking up. Mark and Mary Coleman do a great job at with everything they got going on at All Rivers and Saltwater Charters. Okay, before we get out of here, I want to quickly remind you folks that Rick and Jeff over at Nowhere to Hunt have a great opportunity for you going on as we speak. They're running a special through the end of June. Typically, Nowhere to Hunt has access to prime fields in Skagit County and other great waterfowl areas in Washington State. They have two membership types that they want to make you aware of. Flat rate membership with unlimited hunts for $1,100 for the season. They've bumped that down to $900 during this special through the month of June. So get a hold of them and get signed up for that. You're going to save a couple $100. Or you can do the option on your membership. You can pay as you go, $200 for a person looking to hunt 5 to 7 times a year. That's $200 each time, pay as you go, and they'll explain it all to you as you bring in groups of friends and whatnot. It ends up, being a handful of dollars per person that gets out with them. It's a great opportunity in a private setting to get great exposure to prime hunting locations, get the youth out, get your spouses out, introduce folks into hunting. It's a great way to not have to deal with the long lines and overhunted fields associated with the public hunts, the crowded blinds, the lack of opportunity in some regards, and some of those fields up there in the Skagit area that are completely locked up. But the benefits of owners like these that get you out on those prime locations is what it's all about. So check it out. Know where to hunt. Go to www.kwth.com and give them a call or check out their website and get more information, get signed up, and you may end up joining us right here at FHN on a hunt up there at Nowhere to Hunt this fall. So with that, David, we are going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're going to continue the phone discussions. A good friend of ours, long standing, Del Stevens, will be on the phone. He has one of many seminars coming up this season. He'll be here in Tacoma area, Sportco, this coming Saturday for a tuna seminar. Del's a very busy man. And of course, he's going to join us in a week and a half when we're down in Ilwaco. We'll talk a little bit about that and much more when we get Del Stevens on the phone. We come back right after this break. Welcome back to Fish on Northwest, final installment or segment of the 2-hour program as we do each and every week. If you're finding us late in the show, just a reminder, we start this little party at 6 p.m. And this time of year we get it, it's hard to get indoors. It stays light till almost 10 p.m. for crying out loud. So, I'm out there fishing on my dock until almost 10 at night. So I get it, but reminder that once we record this show live, and we do live each and every Thursday right here, Facebook and YouTube, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you miss it, no worries. It's there living on our Facebook page, and of course our YouTube channel has all our content each and every week as we continue to upload new and exciting information for you and new videos. And the more we get outdoors this time of year, the more content we're bringing. So can't wait to continue to load that stuff on there. You guys keep checking it out, and we appreciate that. So before we get out of here, we're going to check in with our good buddy Dale Stevens. The tuna dog himself has been waiting patiently. How you doing, Dale?
Hey, good. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How you doing, Barnum?
I'm doing great.
He's hanging in there.
Yeah, I smell like fish, but other than
it
that.
It smells like fish in here because he brought those fish in, opened that cooler, and holy cow, it's like somebody burped the baby's diaper. It was pretty toasty in here. So anyway, Dale, you have a seminar coming up this Saturday down at Sportco. What are you going to be covering, and what should folks anticipate you walking them through?
Well, they're going to get a longer seminar than they usually do from the sports shows since we're limited there to time.
Yeah.
They'll get a lot more in-depth, a lot more in detail. We're going to get more in-depth on how to find fish, and sometimes when it's difficult out there, going to show them a few tips on how to find fish when it's tough.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about your basic stuff, trolling techniques, trolling gear, how to read the weather, that kind of thing, to determine whether to go or not to go. We're going to look at fishing iron, and we're going to talk about some of the changes, the new stuff. Things have progressed to the point where it's now classified as fast pitch, slow pitch, yo-yo, and casting. And there's rod makers now making rods addressing some of that. Some of the real manufacturers are also addressing it. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new changes that are coming, and we're going to give away a rod, a nice jig rod, as well as all the other little tackle that I give away to most everybody that shows up. So most everybody will get something.
Nice. So Dale, in the past, I can recall having, many discussions in the realm of tuna with you over the years, back in the early years when we were doing other programs. If you think back to about even as near as 6 to 8 years ago, our conversations would have revolved around guys now deciding to step, say, off a charter boat and go purchase a new boat for themselves, and they're right at that crossover where it's like, well, do I get a boat that appeases everything I need it for, and maybe add a couple feet to it, start thinking live well, because I want to start going and pursuing tuna. And as the last 6 to 8 years have progressed, we see more and more guys and gals that have stepped up. They order that new boat. It's decked out, twin motors, plenty of fuel storage, plenty of storage for fish when they go out tuna fishing, because that's important as well, keeping them on ice and all. So they're equipping themselves, and the boat manufacturers, they came out early and said, hey man, we will build you these boats. Right. That's not a problem. Now we're seeing the finite details. You just went down a list of items that for me is kind of an eye-opener, but makes sense in the progression of things as we do in the fishing industry. We're talking rods and reels specific to certain types of fishing. If we go back 6 or 8 years ago and you're talking fishing iron, you had one rod that you would show me. Now you're talking about fast twitch, slow twitch, different speeds of rods, different speeds of reel. Let's talk a little bit about some of the retrieval speeds that some of these new reels have, and maybe some of the differences that you'll find in this gear nowadays versus what we had even 6 or 8 years ago.
You bet, yeah. The reel manufacturers for the last few years have actually addressed the speed, and the amount of line that comes in on a reel is almost more important than actually the speed of the reel. Mm-hmm. And by that, what they do is they take a reel and they make it taller and narrower, so that way one turn of the handle will bring in anywhere from 42 to 48 inches of line per crank.
48 inches of line retrieve on one crank of the handle.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 6.3 to 1 retrieval rate, and bring in 40 inches line, versus have another reel that is 8.1 in speed and only brings in 36 inches of line, and might not be near as good just because it doesn't bring in as much line, even though it has a fast rate of retrieve.
Yeah, right. So speed of retrieve is more important than, say, gear ratio. How about pound of drag? If a guy's looking for a reel and we're focusing on tuna, how about, how many pounds of drag should I look at, and how much does that reel weigh? How many ounces am I talking about here?
Well, for the most part, the reel you're going to buy, if you're smart, is going to cost you somewhere $250 and above.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that reel is going to have preferably a little bit more than 25 pounds drag.
Yeah.
The reels I use have 44 pounds drag.
44.
Wow.
Yeah. They'll pull you over if you really clamp down on one of them.
44 pounds of drag, 48 inches on the retrieve. Right. All right.
We're borderline logging.
Yeah. We basically got a winch going here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the reel manufacturers, Daiwa Saltigas, the Saltus reels, Shimano's, the Accurates, a lot of those are cut from one bar stock of aluminum.
Right.
And you get up in that 250 and above range, and the quality of the reel is so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an investment in a piece of equipment versus spending $150 on something that you might have to replace next year because you were too cheap or just couldn't afford to step up to the higher price reel.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, you're going to spend $300 to $350 over a 2-year period, or are you going to spend $250 to $300 in the first year and be done with it? And that reel should last you, 5-6 years. Hard to say,
right?
Depending on how well you take care of equipment, like everything else, right?
Yeah, a lot of those reels in that price range will last you 20 years.
Oh, there you go.
Just servicing them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about having these high retrieve reels and you're fishing iron. What depth are you pulling these fish up from when you're fishing iron, most likely?
Most guys that are fishing iron, most guys won't go below 150 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you have very much drift, it's hard to get it to go down that far.
Right.
And fish effectively. Now, the difference in one of the things we're going to talk about this weekend is fast pitch iron is typically your flat-sided, like the butterfly jig, that flutters going down and will catch fish going down, but it's more meant to be retrieved and catch fish on the retrieve versus the slow pitch jig, which the jig manufacturers have really gone to in the last 2 years, is more of a it's symmetrical where it's even on both ends, and it's going to flutter more going down, and you have to follow it going down with your thumb on the spool to feel that very soft and very subtle pickup. Otherwise, you're going to miss the fish.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's meant to catch fish on the drop.
Well, I'm sitting here listening to you talk, Dale, and I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, well, if I'm fishing 100 feet down and I got one of those high-speed retrieve reels, I only got to go 25 cranks to get it back in.
Yeah, but 25 cranks with a 25-pound albacore, 30-pound albacore.
Well, I'm just talking about bringing my jig back up, check it.
Without
it's only 25 cranks, it's not like you're halibut fishing. It's not too bad. I mean, we're dragging 4 feet per crank, so I kind of like that. So,
even
go ahead, Dale.
Even more, most of the time you're only cranking it up 10 cranks, and then you're letting it flutter
drop it back down.
Right.
Yeah, so you're not bringing it all the way to the top.
Well, you got a lot of topics and interesting insight you're going to cover this weekend down at Sportco. What time's your seminar start?
It starts at 11 o'clock. It'll run probably 2 hours.
Okay, all right. And as you mentioned, rod giveaway, lots of gear giveaway. Always a good time to sit in your seminars. Bring your notepad, bring your iPad, whatever it is that you pad on, and take your notes, because the Tuna Dog's going to fill your head with way more than you can walk out there with, so you need to jot it down somewhere. So speaking of that, also, Del, we're going to join up with you. You're going to join up with us down there in El Waco in about a week and a half at the annual kickoff event there for the El Waco Tuna Club. Looking forward to that. You're going to be doing a seminar down there on electronics, if I'm not mistaken, with Garmin, and then of course you'll join me in one of our segments for our show sometime between 4:30 and 6 p.m. and you and I are going to talk about a number of these things we just mentioned, but we're going to go a little more into detail on rods and reels and fast twitch, slow twitch, presentation, that type of stuff in our how-to segment on our Fish Hunt Northwest live installment down there in El Waco. So I'm really looking forward to that.
You bet. It's going to be a good time. That Elko kickoff is a fun time. It gets quite a few people to come to it. So
yep,
it'll be a great time.
Oh, fantastic. Well, have a great seminar on Saturday. Appreciate you coming up here and doing that for the folks that'll be joining you. I'll unfortunately be at work all weekend, so I'll miss out once again. But good talking to you, buddy. We'll see you in about a week and a half down there in Oahu.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Yep,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
We are right about there, Barnum. Time to wind her down. First, before we get out of here, Sunday, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yeah.
You guys, well done bringing those kids into the world.
Yeah.
The work was on your shoulders, let's face it.
Right.
Wait a minute, that one might get me in trouble. So,
right. Some reason I don't think Father's Day is as quite important as
Mother's Day.
Right.
I can tell you this, do not forget Mother's Day.
Right.
Do not forget birthdays. Do not forget anniversaries.
Right.
So, when's your anniversary, Barnum?
August 18th.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Huh? How about that?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We're going to wrap it up and get out of here. Happy Father's Day to all you out there. Enjoy time with your dad, if hopefully he is still here. And get out fishing. I know you're talking about maybe going fishing.
Back to the ocean.
Are you? Yeah.
Those ocean
conducive.
Yeah, the ocean looks beautiful again.
Okay, get out there on the water. You do and are successful. Hopefully you are, and hopefully we can help you do that. Post your pictures up, man. Throw them up on our Facebook page. Interact with us. Go there throughout the week for more information. But yeah, we want to see your photos. Get your kids out. Post your pictures up there and share your experiences with us and with our community here at Fish Hunt Northwest. We will see you next Thursday, and we will be gearing up for that live event down there in Oahu. So we got a lot of stuff coming up throughout this next week. We have a number of outings we're going to be doing on the ocean, even up in North Puget Sound, going after some resident coho later this next week. Tons of stuff coming at you guys. We appreciate you joining us here each and every week on Fish Hunt Northwest. We'll see you next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. right here.